Let's make all these clouds. Let's smoke all this weed. Let's all just be free. So come along with me to MMA 420.
Alright, so let's talk about the UFC Boston card. So much to talk about. First off, let's talk about Greg the Inhaler Hardy. I knew it was gonna be controversial. Like, I understand whether if you have asthma or whatever, if you want to defend him in that aspect, you shouldn't be fighting because that's a health risk. But using an inhaler, there's no excuse in that because, like, what the fuck? That expands your lungs. That you get more oxygen. Like, yeah, like, what the fuck? Yeah, in my corner, I'm gonna have people feeding me grapes. I'm gonna be having an inhaler. I'm gonna have a fan also. Like, bruh. And it's hard right now to even go for Greg Hardy on the aspect that every fight that he has is controversial. Whether it's a fight that was stopped too early or a fight that was stopped by disqualification with a knee. Like, bro. And now a fucking inhaler? And you trying to be a top contender? And, like, I understand, bro. Like, if I was to see this in another organization, I'll still be surprised. But in the UFC, like, imagine him being, like, imagine him being a top contender. If they push him so hard, they throw him into the sharks that fast. And you see him fighting against Francis Ngannou and be like, hold up, let me hit my inhaler. Or a DC, like, what the fuck? I don't know what the UFC is going to do about that, but they got to do something about it. Like, and if they don't, it's like, I don't know what to think about the UFC anymore, because the thing that I used to like about the UFC was that there wasn't so much fans, so there wasn't as much controversy or as much favoritism. But now we're getting to the point that it's blowing up. So, this is what I used to always fear of as when I was younger, that it gets so blown up and to a point that gets to boxing or maybe even bigger. And if it gets to like that, it's gonna get to, again, favoritism, or things are gonna get real weird in the aspect that, I don't know, like, boxing be having judges that doesn't favor certain people. Again, it falls down to favoritism and who makes the most money. I just hope it doesn't get like that. But all right, let's take the topic off the inhaler and whatever. Next fight, he says he's not going to use an inhaler. Most likely he's going to just use probably an IV. Let's see. But all right, now let's talk about the Yair Rodriguez against Jeremy Stephens fight. Now, that fight was a good fight. In the first fight, I never picked who's going to win in that fight. In this fight, I actually picked Jeremy Stephens because Jeremy Stephens pushed Yair, so I felt like Yair wasn't mature enough in the aspect that he was going to just go head first and make it into a brawl, falling into Jeremy's trap. But he didn't do that. He actually kept his composure. So, another thing, but I did call out, was the body kicks. The body kicks actually did play a huge part in the role that it kept the range and keeping Jeremy Stephens away, and also hurting Jeremy Stephens, which you can see in the breakdown that I was talking about that earlier. But Jeremy Stephens was also landing. But one thing that I noticed now, the fight is, you could say the first two rounds were hands down Yair Rodriguez, and the third round was Jeremy Stephens. Now, a lot of people are going to make this argument, the fight was supposed to be 5 rounds, you could probably give it to Jeremy Stephens the way the fight was going. Because he took down, after him eating that body shot that he absorbed on the ground, he was eating a couple shots to the head, but that really wasn't hurting him as much as the body shot. But he kept his composure. But he felt comfortable on the ground. You can see Yair Rodriguez going for dart strokes, and he wasn't worried about his ground game. So I feel like if they were to fight again, which I feel like the fans deserve to see another fight, and for 5 rounds, I will have to favor Jeremy Stephens. Because I feel like now that they've been in the cage together, Jeremy Stephens already knows on the ground. Jeremy Stephens was pretty much giving it to him on the ground. And when you think about Yair Rodriguez's ground game, then think about Frankie Edgar. So that fight be interesting. And another thing that Daniel Cormier also pointed out, that is another thing now. that if Jeremy Stevens or his coaches realize that, which most likely they'll realize it when they look back at the footage, that every time that Yair turns southpaw, that's when he goes for the body kicks. So with that in mind, now that Jeremy Stevens fights him the next time, I feel like he'll take that. And there won't be as much as in brawling, because there's not as much animosity, I feel like, anymore. But it's going to be more of a technical fight. And I feel like Jeremy Stevens will be a lot more slicker and use his wrestling a lot more. And he'll figure out how he'd be changing his stance from southpaw to utilize those body kicks. But Yair did do a hell of a performance, and it was an awesome fight. But again, I would love to see a rematch. Now let's talk about the Weidman against Dominic Reyes. I like Weidman in that fight, but it didn't play out like I was supposed to play out. I felt like he was gonna utilize a lot more single legs and double legs, and it was hard to do that against a person like Dominic Reyes. Especially how he knocked out Weidman while going backwards. It was a phenomenal knockout, and like he dropped him going backwards, and then when he was holding on his ankle on the ground looking up, he waited and he was able to just move to the side of his body and hit him with the hammer fist, and really hit him directly, like a clean shot. So it was very precise. So now that you think about it, it's like I don't know. It's like I don't know what to think. Like now he called out Jon Jones, which is not a bad call out whatsoever. It's the smartest thing he could have done, because Jon Jones is looking for an opponent right now. But at the same time, I feel like we still gotta wait for Corey Anderson, and we still gotta wait for Johnny Walker to see what goes down in that fight. But the light heavyweight division right now has like the most strikers right now. It's like the way it is right now is not too much wrestlers. You could compare this to like how the light heavyweight division was like around the time that right before Jon Jones got the title, when you had like the Huas and the Mashidas. You have all world-class strikers. You had Hua, Machida, the Liddells, the Rampage, the Wandelays, the Vitor Belforts, all around around that same era. And the light heavyweights getting to that same place, but they're not as much wrestlers. But the only wrestler right now you can think is a dominant wrestler that's active, not counting DC, because of the fact that he's in the heavyweight division, he say he's not gonna come back to the light heavyweight division, is Corey Anderson. But again, it all plays out to see what happens against Corey Anderson and Johnny Walker. But Dominic Reyes put a hell of a performance. So let's see if that power could actually put Jon Jones in danger, or what he can actually do. But still, Jon Jones still probably is gonna fight Rumble Johnson. We still don't know where Rumble Johnson is gonna fight Francis Ngannou, but that's still all the way in March. So let's see.
If you like these breakdowns, make sure you look at the other videos that I have, and subscribe now to our MMA 420 YouTube channel, now on Instagram at _MMA 420 _. And can't forget, opinions always up for discussion, so don't talk shit.